Welcome to Phoenix Rising with Dr. Z. This podcast is all about conversations about healing and rising from the ashes of your grief and trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Zampitella. It is my sincere hope that this podcast is going to give you the words and the understanding to help you heal through your grief and trauma.
I think it's more so that it's like she's focused on being the mom. And taking care of everyone, and she's a nurse, and she's seen a lot, and as is my dad. My dad's a nurse as well. They both work in the nursing field, and so part of it is personality, and also like training is like she's just like a caretaker. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, there's an emergency. All right, let's stay calm under pressure. Let's do what we need to do. And it's not that she's stoic by any means. She's so warm, and she's the most loving mom you'll ever meet. But she's just, I think that seems to be something that for her, she does more privately, and then it's more toward the restoration outwardly.
Does that impact your grieving process?
I mean, I'm sure it does. Anything, in your experience is going to, but I would say in a negative way. It's just, I know Mom's the rock. I know I can go to her. Like she's the strongest woman I know. Maybe the strongest person I know.
Wow.
And so we all feel very cared for and safe with her. So I would say if anything, it impacts it in a way that I know I feel comfortable going to her for anything.
So do you feel like you could go to her with how you feel about having lost your grandfather and your grandmother? And I know we haven't even talked about your other grandmother and grandfather, but your grandpa and your grandmom. Like, do you feel like you can be emotionally expressive to her and she would be receptive to that?
Oh, yeah.
So she's restoration focused, but she's not emotionally unavailable.
Yes.
She didn't shut down that way.
No,
so
not at
you
all.
knew, even though if you didn't see her express it, you knew the warmth was still there.
Yes.
And now these are your mom's parents, right? And how's your dad supporting this? But like, where's his role in all of this?
I think my dad's role in it was more focused on supporting my mom and maybe emotionally in whatever ways he could. So although Grandmom, it wasn't necessarily as expected as it was with Grandpa, and it wasn't like she wasn't dying before this all happened. She was getting older, and her body was going through the natural aging process that it does, and she was a bit more starting to become more kind of frail in older age, and so while there wasn't any like really serious terminal any kind of diagnosis or anything, because of her health just naturally declining, and living by herself, and my mom, one, being a nurse, and two, living across the street, she was taking care of my grandmom a lot.
I was wondering about that.
It was very stressful for her, and at times they drove each other crazy.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so there was, it seemed, a relief too of the not of the loss or the death, but a relief of not having that role anymore. And so. While it was emotionally difficult, the loss also, after my grandmom died, my parents also had more time together again, because so much of my mom's time was taken up with taking care of her mother.
Yeah, family caregiving is like a whole other topic that needs to happen on the podcast, and I'm multiple people have been like, yes, please let me talk about it, because it's one that's overlooked. So I can't assume how your mom felt. But for some people, there's this like relief but then guilt that comes with the relief, and
I see
relief
that
that they're
so
no,
much
yeah,
with
I do
clients.
too.
Yeah.
I do. I'm glad that they're no longer suffering. I'm not glad that they're not here,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
glad that I have my life back, but I feel guilty about being glad about having my life back, and I can get kind of crazy. So, darn it, I had like these 3 questions, and I was like keeping them there, and then I became 52 again, and then all of a sudden forgot. Oh God, oh my gosh. So this might be, well, we'll see. I'm not going to
Okay.
assume how you're going to feel. They didn't get to meet your children.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's something I think about fairly often, from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you feel about it?
I mean, sad at times, right? It's disappointing. I know they both would have loved to see the kids, and, growing up and being crazy and all the silly things that they do.
Climbing over them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If he was in, the
Well,
same
I
kind
mean,
of
you know what I
healthy,
mean? Like
like
having that
yeah,
relationship.
yeah. And I do see, my father-in-law is retired, and he watches the kids a lot for us. We're very fortunate in that way, and I see the bond that both the kids have with him, and especially Lena, because she's older, 4 years now. This closeness with her pup-up, and it would have been really cool to see that as well with my grandparents, with her great grandparents.
Yeah.
Like I said, when they died, they only had two great grandchildren, which are my brother's 2 kids. So other than my brother, I was the first in my generation to have kids. But Lena was born in 2021. Yes, 2021. So a couple years after. They both did get to come to my wedding. That was
Oh,
really
good.
cool to have
Okay.
them there. They lit up. And I got to see Grandmom on the dance floor later that night too, which she did not often get a chance to see. Yeah.
That's nice.
So they were, it was. I'm grateful for the milestones that they were there, and it's sad to know that my kids don't get to meet them.
Yeah. Do you find ways to keep them like introduced to the children? I mean, obviously not your son. I mean, he's young. But like for Lena, do you find ways of connecting her to them in any way through pictures or stories?
Sometimes pictures. She loves to look at pictures.
Yeah.
And, she likes to sit with me, and she could like go through my phone and be like, "Who's this? Who's that? What's happening here?" And so, sometimes a few pictures here and there they pop up. I'm like, "Oh, that's that's Daddy's grandma and grandpa," or but answer any questions that she has. Also, the attention span of a 4-year-old is like a flea, so it goes to something else. But I do where I can, and I'm sure that as they get older, they'll be more curious, and kind of we can talk more about some stories and stuff.
Is that how you'll keep that bond going? Because we talk about continued bonds, right?
Yeah.
And in the Italian culture, continued bonds that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Talk to my family, everybody clearly was unstable. Maybe a little unstable,
Yeah.
but very, colorful. We'll just call my family colorful.
Okay.
But still, talking about stories and, sometimes I'm sure you'll be shocked by this, but my aunts on my dad's side, so those are who I grew up with. They were my aunts,
Okay.
you know what I mean? So his aunts are completely inappropriate. I mean,
Italian aunts, that's how they are. Yeah.
ooh, I'm talking like, I cannot believe that just came out of your mouth. And there's no shame at
Yeah.
all. They just,
No.
hey, got to laugh at it, and that's what I was looking for.
Right.
But
Right.
so but keeping the memories alive and the stories alive and those continued bonds tend to be pretty important
yeah.
in, at least in this Italian American culture.
Sure.
So same thing.
Same thing,
Yeah,
like
same thing.
passing down stories and spoken word and such. And and my daughter is she loves Mario and Princess Peach and all that stuff. Ever since she saw the movie, and she wanted to be Princess Peach that year for Halloween, and I was Mario. And one day, wanted to play the game. And nice thing about the Switch is that it has all the emulators of the old consoles on there, going back to NES, SNES. So I was playing Super Mario World, which is the game that he used to play, and I would sit on his back, right? And I was laying on the floor.
So there is a way of continuing.
I was telling her about that.
Okay.
Like, Grandpa used to play this game, and I would sit with him and watch him play and climb all over him, and it's from when I was little.
I'm trying to become Aunt Christina.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She was your shadow the other day.
I freaking love that kid. I'm like, you gotta scream, "Go, Daddy!" in order to get a strike, and then in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, because I'm gonna beat you.
Yeah. I don't think you had to worry about that too much. I'm a pretty poor bowler. I have a good time, but
it was a whole bowling thing.
Yeah.
I took everybody out to, and we had a good time. But
she's definitely she's a firecracker.
I'm attached.
Yeah.
I am attached to that young lady. She's such a cutie. Oh my God. So a follow-up question I have for you is when the home got sold. Here's this home across the street, huge part of your family story, everything that you've been talking about, like just being there, available, walk across the street, what's going on, your grandpa passed there. And what was that like to see the house get sold? Do you remember?
I do. Surreal would be the best word I could use.
Okay.
We knew that they were getting ready to sell it. They were cleaning it out, fixing it up. I hadn't been there in, I don't know, maybe like a week or two or something like that. And I was over at my parents' house, probably on a Sunday, probably for Sunday, because we do Sunday dinners at my parents' house now. After my mama and papa, my dad's parents died, we started doing Sunday dinners at my parents' house. So it's probably a Sunday. I'm over there, and Mom says, hey, we pretty much cleared everything out. There's, everything that's there still is kind of in the living room. Might want to go over and see just if there's anything that you want to take or keep. And I already had some things, but I thought, I'll go take a look. And so walking into the house and just seeing it empty, I thought would be really painful. But in that moment when I walked in, it just didn't feel real. And so I think the shock was just, I felt numb, at that moment. And afterwards, kind of that reality kind of gradually set in as like the sign, came down, and we knew somebody bought the house and they were moving in, and we kind of met the new neighbors, and nice young couple starting a family and everything. And that was cool, but to know that it was like it was going to become someone's dream home or their first home, right? A starter home for a new family, basically. But seeing it like kind of cleared out just didn't feel real, and I think the reality kind of gradually set in. So it wasn't like a big moment where it was like everything came out. It was just this gradual realization.
It's interesting how we have like numbness. It's amazing how our brains will just protect ourselves, right? And how it will do that for different kinds of losses.
Right.
A lot of times we will overlook the non-death related losses, like completely just be like, oh, it was a house. But it's not.
Right.
It was everything that was contained within the house.
Yeah.
It was everything it represented. And I don't want to minimize that. I mean, I've seen people grieve cars. I've seen people, we grieve identities. We grieve, and that's why I was kind of jumping into some of that. So I know we're talking about your mother's parents. What about your father's parents?
So Mom and Pop-Up, they lived, as I said, in Jersey. We used to go over there once a week for Sunday dinner. And again, see them at like holidays and birthdays and all that kind of stuff too. I was really close with my mom. My Pop-Up died when I want to say I was about 7. It was the first grandparent I lost.
Oh, okay. How was that relationship?
It was, I was so young, I don't remember a lot. It was a positive relationship. I wouldn't say that I was like particularly close with my papa, but we loved each other, and he was, I just have memories of him being like a very just kind of hardworking, like gritty kind of guy. Like he repaired like lawnmowers and like diesel machinery and stuff, and the backyard while he was alive was just looked like a junkyard. Just covered in, it smelled like motor oil in the backyard. And he was just old school Italian guy, like of that era. The dad works, my mom cooked and cleaned and took care of the kids in the house.
Very traditional.
Very traditional. And she was the nurturing one, and so I was naturally closer with her. But again, not that I had a bad relationship with Papa, but I was very young when he died, and I had a closer bond with my mom, and she was. So he died when I was 7, I believe, from a brain bleed that was sudden. Just one day, Dad sat me down and said that Papa died.
Wow.
And I don't remember much from that. As I said, I was young. My mom died when I was a young adult, probably about 19, 20, something like that. It was 2009. She just kind of had a gradual decline. There's no like big thing that happened. Same thing, just kind of got the news that she had died in a nursing home. So she was hanging on to that house for a while.
Yeah.
It's again, same house that actually my papa built over in Jersey, and so she was living there still. We were still going over for Sunday dinners for a while, and then for a little bit, she lived with us. I can't remember how long, but she lived at my parents' house for a bit there when I was 15 or so, 16, something like that. Somewhere in like high school, like sophomore, junior year, somewhere around there. And then after a while, we couldn't meet her needs anymore at home, and she had to go into a nursing home, and she was there, and that's where she died. When I was about 19 or so.
Very different experience.
Yeah.
Different relationship, different dynamics, different level of closeness. Not bad, just not as close.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would say not as close with my papa. I was pretty close with my mama.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was that like for you? Because, okay, so you're in a whole different era, and I apologize. I made that assumption. But so, here we are 10 years before the loss of your mother's parents, who you were very close to. And you lose her at an age where you probably just entered college, I imagine, like 19-ish, somewhere in there.
Yep.
Okay. So when you're at a different phase of your life, losses can feel a little bit more disorienting or disorganizing for different reasons. How did that impact you when you were in college and you lost your mom?
It was hard. It was the first loss, first time losing a family member that I cried. And that was new. I just thought it's I don't know. I don't know if funny is the right word, but like I just thought, oh, I just guess I just don't cry at much before that. Like at least with like big sad things like that. Yeah. First significant loss where, other than pets, first family member, human family member, not for a family member that I cried, and that was surprising to me, even though I was very close with her. I was just like, oh, I didn't know this was something that I did. Right? So it
made you
hit
realize
me
something
pretty
more
hard.
about yourself.
Like, yeah. With Pop Up, I was so young, and I do remember it's like I think it was my first funeral, and being afraid to go up to the casket. Like I didn't want to, first time ever.
You were 7.
Yeah. And they're just being like, okay, this is just something that happened. Like it felt kind of like it, I don't know, as a kid, it's just, I don't know. It didn't feel as like very emotional to me. Again, like I said, not because there was any negativity within our relationship, but I just was kind of like, okay, I'm 7, I'm going about my life.
Sure.
But when Mom died, that hit me pretty hard. How it affected me is, maybe some moments of kind of like the numbness that we've mentioned, just feeling fuzzy, foggy, kind of hard to focus sometimes, some cognitive effects, reactions to the grief, and the sadness and longing, and so the emotional side as well. If it was 2009, then I was in second year or third year, one or the other of college at that point, depending on where it fell. And I mean, I was kind of like, at that point, I decided that I decided on a major, because at first I was kind of jumping around, didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was like really focused on like getting things back on track. I had a rocky start with college, and I had always been an honor student all the way through high school, and I was getting back on track at this time, like, in the National Honor Society, like had chosen my, to major in psychology, and so, like school was going well, and it basically had made things harder for a while there, but.
So just when you were finding your ground, you got shaky again.
Yeah.
Got a little rocky, and you had to try to find your way through.
Yeah.
Which is a very natural adaptive process. Sounds like you adapted. Not that it was easy.
No.
It just sounds like you adapted to it. So one of the things you and I talked about, before we started today was, what were we going to, talk about? So now, and I'm not going to say I know how you feel, because my relationships were extremely different than yours, but losing the entire grandparent subsystem of the family, where all 4 are gone, and there weren't step grandparents, so all 4 of your step grandparent, or your grandparents are gone. Do you have any feelings or thoughts about that? I don't want to make assumptions about what is that like?
I think, as with really any loss, it can cause you to think more about your own mortality.
Is that what's happened for you?
That's part of it, I would say, yeah. And it's hard to say exactly where that's coming from, right? Part of it is just age, right? Part of it is seeing now one generation gone, and now my parents' generation is the eldest in the family, and like thinking, oh man, sometimes it feels like it was just yesterday. I was the little kid running around, climbing on top of a grandpop, or running around in Mom and Pop-Up's backyard, with my cousin on that side of the family, and now they're gone, and my daughter is 4, right, and she's about where I was when I'm having those memories, and like this is. So it sometimes puts that into the passage of time into perspective. Part of it could be that. Part of it could be the field I'm in. I talk about death and loss and trauma a lot
Can't
more
imagine
than the average person. And so, part of it could be that. But yeah, I think part of it is like kind of just thinking more about the end of life. And more so, I think, with grandma and grandpa, because I was older at that time. You know, when my mom died, I was like a young college, I'll say kid. A young adult technically, but like a kid, you know, different mentality then. Now, thinking about like those moments too at the end, you know, like what's that like? Did they know, you know, did they know they were going to die? I think they both did. And what was that like when they're facing their mortality in those moments? You know, I remember I had to call my grandmom to say goodbye over the phone because she was down in Florida. And she couldn't talk to me at that point when I called. My mom was there with her, and she was on the phone, and she was kind of like saying, oh yeah, she's smiling, or she's nodding her head, or she kind of laughed a little bit at something I said, you know. And so like knowing that they had both of them, both grandma and grandpa had, they were lucid, they were aware, you know. And so like thinking about those final moments for people and what is that like. And so these things that we don't like to think about, right? We call it like death anxiety, right? It just are facing our mortality, and the reality is all of us will one day die, right? And so it causes you to kind of think about that more, which can be scary.
And thinking about your parents, I imagine, the mortality of your parents.
Right, exactly, yeah. And thinking about what's it going to be like when I have to, you know, navigate future losses myself, but also doing that now with children. Right, where before it's like I wasn't really responsible for anyone. Now it's okay. Whenever the next loss happens, because I haven't had a significant loss since the kids have been born. You know, now I have to help them and support them in processing stuff in the way that kids do whenever, or teenagers, or however old they are when they face their first loss.
Is there anything else about your narrative around the losses of your grandparents that you would want to share that I haven't asked you about?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we touched a little bit more briefly on my dad's parents. He could tell you a little bit more about my mom.
Go ahead.
You know,
Let's
she
hear
was
about
present
Mama.
for a lot of my life, and I was close with her.
Okay.
Well, she was definitely the matriarch of the family. She was a petite woman, but you listened to her. She cooked nonstop. Like that was her way of loving people, was feeding them even when you were not hungry. So, I mean, there's so many, I can't even pinpoint a single time, but so many memories of her being like, you know, hey baby, are you hungry? And be like, you know, no, I'm okay, Mom, you know, I just ate. Okay, I'll make you a sandwich.
That was my family.
All the time.
Aunt Dolly, are you hungry? No. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to make you a stromboli.
Yeah. Yep. Did you get enough to eat?
Did you get enough to eat? And then you eat, and you're like, watch your weight. What? Yeah. Wait a minute. You won't stop feeding me, lady.
Right.
Yeah. I hear you. But there's something about that. Yeah. You know, again, and there's other cultures that are like that too, but that was her way of sharing her love.
Yeah. With you. And you know, we carry that on. As I said, food is very important in our family, you know, culturally, and you know, it's not like a gluttonous thing, right? It's about breaking bread. It's about the sharing of food, you know, not about just like eating as much as you possibly can, but it's that the giving part of it and the communal part of it, you know, and
the nurturing part.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that, you know, we still have Sunday dinner, like I said, at my parents' house, but that was all Mama when I was growing up. And I mean, it was big. Like there were snacks like, you know, cheese and crackers and pepperoni and candy and things that were out beforehand. And then, you know, you have, you know, some kind of like appetizer after the snack. And then dinner was usually like some kind of pasta and then gravy, which is red sauce with a meat base on the East Coast.
Yeah, my grandma used to have I'd be like, oh, we're making, spaghetti sauce. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Are we having gravy? Yeah. But
My
it's,
bad.
yeah. But
And
yeah.
chicken cutlets.
Yeah.
That was always a
And
big
chicken
thing.
cutlets.
Those were a
Which is
big
awesome,
deal.
right?
I still haven't figured out how the hell she made them. Mm-hmm. No, like seriously,
Yeah.
I've tried.
It's a simple thing,
No.
but like
Not the way
yeah.
not the way grandma
But
did
it's,
it.
yeah, there's something about the way they make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was like some kind of appetizer. It's usually a soup, like pastine or like Italian wedding or something. And then you had chicken cutlets and you had pasta with gravy and meatballs and sausage and, short rib and everything all on the meat. And then salad. Salad was after dinner. And then take like a break for 30 minutes or so and then have dessert and coffee.
Yep.
And that was every Sunday.
That's interesting. You mentioned, like, this side note, the salad after dinner.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that.
Okay.
But when I went to Italy for the first time, you did, and everybody I was with a group of people, and everybody was like, "Why are we eating salad afterwards?" And the people who were there were like, looking at us like, "You dumbass Americans,"
Right.
you know what I mean?
That's what you
But
do,
you do. You eat salad after dinner.
I still do that to this day.
You did? Oh, do you really?
Yeah, anytime there's dinner, I have a salad afterwards.
Afterwards.
Not before. Yeah. And we do that Sunday dinner, but I also do that at home.
At home.
If we make dinner and we have a salad, I'll save that for after I've had the main course.
Interesting.
But, yeah, and so yeah, she was always feeding people. She was stubborn. She was a neat freak. She would clean. I mean, everything had to be just lined up.
Did she have plastic on everything?
She didn't have plastic. She didn't.
We
that
had plastic.
That's
You
she
didn't want to
have
go
that.
over to Aunt Gloria's house in
Yeah.
shorts.
Yeah.
Especially in the summer. Your ass slide right the hell off. Right
Yeah.
off the couch. Or you'd leave skin.
Yeah.
And they'd have the damn thing on the floor so you wouldn't mess up the rug.
Yeah.
She had plastic on the
protect
to protect everything.
Yeah.
And then Aunt Gloria, not that you're asking me about this, I'm going to tell you anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
She had
Tell me
like
about
a
Aunt Gloria.
stage in her living room for the Christmas trees, and she had different colored Christmas
Oh, yeah?
trees, like fake, like
Okay.
a pink one, a white one, a green one. I mean, that was a thing, and she had a thing, and it would turn. And it's just like you walked in and you're like, oh my God, you couldn't.
Oh my gosh.
Don't sit on there. Don't sit on there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Same thing. Neat freak. Pink.
So-
Pink.
Sorry, you just reminded me of another story.
Yeah.
Not even a memory that I have, but just a story that I've heard from my dad and my brother. So they had a Christmas tree that spun. My pop-up made like some kind of mechanism that
Right.
would sit on. It would spin around so you could see. Also, they decorate all the sides of the tree, and it would be in the window. And they had tinsel. And apparently, you weren't allowed to kind of just like break it up and throw it on the tree. Like you had to, like each strand.
It had to be very specifically.
Individually lay the strands of tinsel on the tree. Apparently, it would take forever. I was not around for this.
Man,
I've heard
tinsel
this
was
story.
brutal.
Yeah.
You could never get that stuff.
Yeah, so very particular. She would
Yeah.
like if there were like little tassels on a rug, she would like make sure they were all laying straight. Like yeah, and she did that with everyone in the family, which is like always taking care of everyone. And I remember her like yelling at my brother all the time. My brother's 14 years my elder, and so we used to wrestle, but I was more on the receiving end of that.
I bet.
I was not always a willing participant.
It's not fair.
And she would hear us kind of tussling in the living room, and she'd be yelling at him. You're like, Robert, knock it off! Stop that! And and he would listen. This big muscular guy, and he would shut up and stop when Mom would yell at him. So.
It's interesting you talk about how all of your grandparents were nurturing and loving, your parents nurturing and loving in, careers that are nurturing and loving. And here you are now in a career that's nurturing and loving.
Right.
And I've seen you with your wife. I've seen you with your children, nurturing and loving with them. And they are the same way. And not everybody is lucky to have that. Like my grandparents, I never met my grandfather on my dad's side. He died before I was born. My grandmother was hard. I was like, she loved me, but she was hard. Like just, you weren't going to break her. You know what I mean? They came from a very, very poor background. So, and my grandfather had divorced. And he had remarried, but again, I never met them.
Okay.
They were, passed before. And then my grandmother never remarried. she was having no parts of another man. Oof, oh yeah. And then my mom's parents, my grandmother and grandfather, I think they were divorced before I was born. And they were the English Irish side of my family.
Oh,
But I
okay.
grew up, like culturally, I grew up Italian
Uh-huh.
American. But they were, stiff upper lip coming from the Depression era in the Midwest. Like you were not, they were hard people. And my grandmom, I mean, I just wasn't close to her. We just didn't have time
Okay.
together a whole lot. And, but when I would go there, it would be fine. My grandfather was also a World War II vet because that's how my grandmother and grandfather met on my mom's side. She was a nurse, interesting. And he was like paratrooper, badass, and almost died, all the things, whatever. And they did not have a pretty relationship. He he divorced, and well, obviously they got divorced, and then he got remarried to a really nice woman. I remember her, but we didn't have like any relationship. And he died when I was like 15. And then my grandma married my grandpa Bud, and I loved Grandpa Bud. He was super quiet. I don't even know if I heard him say like 10 words, but he was so gentle and so sweet. And while we didn't have any time with them, we didn't have any money to travel. It just we grew up so poor. It's not like I could jump on a plane or I remember we went out there once by train. That was I was a kid. So, but I remember Grandpa Bud. And then when he died, my grandma never got remarried. And she died, I think, in 2013. That was sad. It was interesting because the whole family ended up getting together for her funeral.
Okay.
And we don't
That
we
didn't
didn't
happen very
get
often.
no.
No.
And so we're here at the wake. Everybody's eating, laughing and smiling and taking pictures. Like I got pictures, all of us like, hey, because it was like this weird connection. And I think
Right.
she would have been happy to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely a unique experience. She had the 7-gun salute, the whole 9 yards,
Okay.
and all this other stuff. So so I guess, as we're starting to think about wrapping up here, but your, what do you think? Now, this is more from a clinical perspective, but for those people who don't have close relationships with their grandparents, I mean, it's kind of idealistic. I hear yours and I'm like, damn, a lot of
Sure.
people would have, really, really, not that there was no problems at all, but just saying, like, generally it's a really positive, cohesive family system. But what about people who don't have healthy grandparents and
Right.
there's more ambivalent relationships?
I mean, it's going to be clearly it's different for each individual, right? There's going to be unique aspects to any relationship, and I can't give advice that's universal necessarily for
Right.
any one person because it's going to be based on that relationship. But I mean, one thing is, as we've been talking about, um, you know, there's a when grandparents die, there can be a loss of that generation, and that if you don't know the stories, the history, all the stuff, some of it's gone with them. You know,
That's a good point.
I've seen this so many times where after someone dies, people like start looking more into their family history. There's a reinvigorated interest in like, where did we come
I did
from?
that.
Like, yeah,
I've done that,
you've
trying to
had
track
the
it down.
yeah.
And it's like, how am I going to get these stories?
Right, and it's great that we have some of the things we have nowadays
Right.
that we can, like Ancestry and 23andMe, whatever, these things where you can do a DNA test and find out more about your heritage and where your family comes from and
And
find
the
records. And
government can track you.
they
But
can,
yes,
yeah,
okay.
but there's ways to find these things out somewhat. But what I see happen a lot is people are now trying to track this stuff down after they've lost, grandparents, and you've had this pool of information, this resource, while they were here, but you don't think about it then always, and so that kind of carrying on that oral tradition, that history, that family history, and you also don't want to regret if, it's possible to make amends, to repair a relationship. Maybe it's not, maybe it is, but you don't want to. Regrets are something that we see a lot as well.
If onlys, I should have,
Yes.
like that, and which are normal.
Of
I just
course,
want to point
in
that
any
out,
loss,
like
it's gonna
very,
be-
very normal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, with grandparents, it's often because we talked about my losing my first grandparent at 7, and then the last grandparent when I was almost 30, and so it can happen at like different points in your life, but it's often losing a grandparent's one of the first significant losses people face, right? And so also maybe for the sake of your children, right? To have a relationship with them if it's possible.
Any last words you'd want to give to our viewers or our listeners about, I don't know, just leave that up to you. I mean, you're a thanatologist, which, by the way, that's a person who specializes in grief, loss, and bereavement, and in this case also traumatologist. So lots of fancy things, but I'm glad that we do it. Any last things that you think people should know?
I mean, I would say that this applies to loss of grandparent, but regardless of the loss, that to give yourself the space and the grace that you need to grieve. I know that, when I lost my grandmom, that hit me really hard, and I was surprised by that. I was like, I was a bit closer with Grandpa. Why is this affecting me so heavily? And I was kind of disenfranchising myself a bit, right? So that
Explain what disenfranchising is.
taking away when someone's right to grieve in the way they need to is taken away, and we can disenfranchise ourselves. And
right.
It was like be tougher. Why are you so?
It's
like saying this to myself almost.
Of course, your grandparent's going to die.
Right.
Why should it be? It's expected.
Loss,
right?
And when
they rolled. They had a good life.
Right. It's still okay. It's really hard, even if it's expected, even if it's the way that the world works, and it's just that the older generation dies first, right? It can still be a really hard loss, and you can grieve in whatever way you need to, and it's okay however it's affecting you.
Yeah.
Those would be my parting words.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on here. And I know last couple of times I had you on, we were talking about art therapy and, children, being, dying before their parents and everything. But, today I had you come on and asked you to come on, and you graciously accepted being able to talk about your grandparents.
Sure.
And I think it's a very overlooked group of individuals, just like, oh, your grandparents, they die. Yeah. But, my grandmother died from lung cancer as well, and COPD. And so when you're talking, I'm going, I'm not going to say I understand it, but I remember watching her wither away.
You can relate.
And, it's, it's still a lot. It just changes how you understand who you are in the world.
Even if it's an expected loss, it can still have a really big impact on your life. And be a really difficult loss.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, taking the time to talk to me today and to listen to these parts of the story. It's nice to talk about them.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That keeps them alive in some ways.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching or listening, and until next time, we've got lots of different topics that are coming up. And if you have any topics or any comments or questions, if you're watching this on YouTube or any other platform where you can, like, TikTok, if you can write those down in the comment section, I do track those. I personally track those, and I will respond to them. And I just want to remind you that it does take challenge to awaken the power to heal. So thanks so much. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Phoenix Rising with Dr. Z. If this episode helped, subscribe and share it with someone who needs it. We'll see you next time.